When you start sewing, nobody tells you how much ironing you have to do. Hello, I'm Rachel, this is Missy, and we're Miss Daisy Sewing, and today we're going to talk about the Moomins. My husband and I have a holiday to Finland coming up, and it's very much a Moomin holiday. We're going to go to Moomin Valley, the Moomin Museum. I only own this one t-shirt with a Moomin on it, and that needs to be rectified. So what I'm hoping to do is make a sort of poodle skirt with like a sort of diorama painted along the bottom. I'm going to use the Simplicity 1459 pattern. It's well and truly tested at this point. I'm just going to use the skirt from this and put a waistband on it. We're wanting to keep this nice and easy. We are on a little bit of a time crunch. I'm also wanting to use that dark grey fabric I used in the gargoyle dress for the wings. So my first thing I need to do is a colour test with the paints. So I'm going to explain more about the plan once we get on with that. So the plan for this is a poodle skirt. And what I want to do is the sort of Moomin house on the sort of front corner, if you will. And then sort of having like the ground, and then sort of all various brush up here, and then the blue sky, maybe some little clouds fading into the grey of the main body of the skirt. For the paint test, I used just a scrap bit of fabric and a handful of colours that I knew would be most prevalent in the final piece. I was quite pleased with how most of the colours came out, although I definitely did need to use a lot of white to bring some brightness against that dark grey. Whilst the paint dried, I cut out all of the pattern pieces. I wanted to make a lining for this, so I did everything in duplicate, and I also of course had to make pockets. Lessons were learned from last time, and I started off on the table and originally just did the sort of ground colour. Once it was dry, I gave it a quick press, and let me tell you now, this skirt was pressed so many times. At this point I decided it would be a wise idea to sketch out what I wanted on the skirt. I decided on the Moomin house, Snufkin's tent, the red comet, and also the bridge that Snufkin and Moomin are often sat on. So what is it about the Moomins that has attracted us to make the pilgrimage to Finland? It's probably the combination of the whimsy in the storytelling, the cute and quirky little characters, but there's also a lot of depth in the stories themselves. Whilst they're light-hearted and fantastical, they also touch on a lot of profound themes, like friendship and family and even loneliness and the search for meaning. And I find that they balance that in a way that's compelling and digestible for the reader. Like, children resonate with it just as easily as adults. And there's also the characters. They each have their own unique quirk and nature, and you can see them in everybody you meet. There's Moomin Troll, who's curious and kind-hearted and seeks adventure, and Moomin Mama, this warm and nurturing creature who has this endless supply of sweet treats and is the one to go to when anything goes wrong, and Moomin Papa, who's the dreamer, the adventurer, and the thinker. Well, at least he likes to think he's philosophical, I suppose. And then there's Moomin Valley itself, this beautiful, magical, idyllic place, which is almost as much a character as Moomin Troll or Snufkin themselves. It seems to exist outside of conventional time and invites you to come and explore. And that's part of the reason why, whilst I initially had intended to add Moomin Troll and all of the characters to this skirt, I decided to just leave it as a landscape embracing all of the most important parts of Moomin Valley. We're definitely embracing our inner Bob Ross today. I'm just kind of winging this, but it's getting there. I'm happy with it so far, so let's just Keep pushing on and adding some more colour. Instead of goblin mode, can we call it troll mode for this video? So I finished this up last night, just adding more tones in the greens mostly. And plan is to give it one more press and then give it a wash. If I've done something wrong and loads of the colour washes out, it'll be much easier to fix now before I assemble it into a skirt. Also means these chalk lines will get washed off and I'll be able to get a better idea of it. I'm trying to decide if I want to sketch on outlines with the marker pen, but we'll figure that out once it's been washed. Okay, it's in. Fingers are crossed. Oh, that looks okay. That looks like it's held up okay. We'll get these hanging up and see what they look like when dry. So it's a glorious day. So I've got everything outside to dry. But yeah, it looks great. Everything's colour has stayed, which I'm really pleased about. So yeah, we'll get this dried off properly and I need to decide if I'm going to do outlines or not. I decided to outline it in the end, but keep things quite sketchy and very soft with the way that the lines were drawn in, just to help maintain a sort of storybook look to it. I think it was definitely worth the effort because it really cleaned up all of the pictures and just made everything stand out that little bit more. Once I was happy with all of the sketch work, the next step was to steel it with heat. So once again, back to the ironing board. This was the first time I got to see all of the panels side by side, and it gave me so much hope for the final piece. We're now on to the construction phase, and the first step is the all-important pockets. The construction of this skirt is just the same as it was before, so the pockets are sewn on first, and then both of the side seams, and then the back seam. I did briefly toy with the idea of pleating, which is what you sort of see me playing around with here, but in the end decided to stick with gathers because it was too harsh a line on the top with the pleats. I then repeated the whole process again with the lining. I decided to attach the outer skirt and the lining by sewing along the bottom curved edge of both together. I then flipped that right sides out and top stitched on top to get a nice neat crisp line. So I normally do my zips with the seam open, but I want to try it with the seam already stitched shut. So the plan is to open these here, and then I will sew it face down on the outside part, and then unpick these stitches, which is why I started them on a longer stitch earlier on. So that's the plan. So we're going to stitch this on, unpick this, and then I'll tack it to the lining once I'm done. So I'll give it a go. I might be brave and try it on camera. We'll see how it goes. The zip install went smoothly enough. It was a bit weird doing it with the seam stitched shut just because it's not what I'm used to, but I was quite happy with how it turned out in the end. After that it was on to gathering, and gathering, and gathering. Once happy with the gathers, I prepped the waistband and pinned it where I wanted the side seams to meet. I forgot to film the part where I'm adding the waistband, but here I am just hand stitching down the inside edge so that everything is nice and neat looking. And with that, the skirt is complete, capturing all of the favourite parts of Moomin Valley that I know from the books. Particularly the Moomin house itself, this beautiful tall blue house where everyone is welcome, whoever they are, whenever they come. And this can't be described any better than a quote from Finn Family Moomin. And it goes, "Moomin Troll's mother and father always welcomed all their friends in the same quiet way, just adding another bed or putting another leaf in the dining room table. And so Moomin House was rather full, a place where everyone did what they liked and seldom worried about tomorrow." It's such a wonderful philosophy to live by. But on that note, I shall let you all go. Perhaps pick up a Moomin book or two. Until next time, bye!